Hello, welcome to Get Lit. I'm Kate.
And I'm Pat, and welcome to the Civic Center Library here at Scottsdale.
We're here to share our beautiful library with you, as well as some services, books, and more that we're really excited about.
And we think you will be too. So, come on in with us.
Hey, welcome everybody. My name's Thomas here at the Scottsdale Public Library. I want to talk to you for a moment about our binge boxes. Binge boxes are a selection of movies in DVD format, and rather than come in and having to browse, we have the binge boxes allow you to pick movies and based on certain genres. We have one, for instance, Who Taught You to Throw a Punch? And these are just movies that are based on boxing or any type of fighting. We have Million Dollar Baby, Warrior, The Fighter, Southpaw, Creed, and Rocky, just to give you an idea. We also have movies on humbling holidays, Gossip Girls Teen Comedies Edition, and Pasta Cowboys, along with so much more. So come on down to the Scottsdale Public Library and check out a binge box today.
Hi, Kate here, and I have some interesting choices for graphic format books today. It's going to be a little beyond the norm. Everybody thinks of graphic novels, or they think of comic stories. This is an example of graphic nonfiction that is popping up more and more in libraries and bookstores today. Specifically, you may have seen a November Get Lit where I shared my love of cookbooks. What could be more wonderful for someone who loves graphic format and who loves cookbooks than graphic format cookbooks? More and more of these around every day. I've brought two specifically to show. This one is called Cook Korean by Robin Ha, a comic book with recipes. And it is such a pleasure just to go through and look at the illustrations. She gives you a wonderful prologue about what it is to grow up in a Korean family, for her in any case, and what Korean cooking is and how it might differ from, let's say, your basic American who isn't Korean, what we think of as American food. Because, you don't have breakfast foods that you eat that you don't eat any other time of day, or lunch foods or dinner. There's not lots of sweet desserts and things like that. But everybody is around the table together sharing things and eating specific things that pop up now and again and all the time. There is kimchi, always. There are various pickles and fermented dishes, and so many fresh items and condiments. And there are wonderful illustrations and recipes for each of these things, including sauces, condiments, and also sort of more Americanized versions of kimchi, things like sesame mayonnaise and like that. And in between these wonderful recipes that are also very user-friendly, very easy to see how much you need. It actually enhances the cookbook using experience, because instead of just trying to crowd the page with lots of information and lots of images, you're actually watching what you do with ingredients, and of course what they're going to look like ingredient by ingredient and step by step. So in between these wonderful things is more information on her family and on Korean culture, and with little scenarios with herself and family, with herself and friends. And at the very end, it's very sweet. There's a scene between herself and her mother where there's a lot of arguing and snapping back and forth, but with thought bubbles of what they're really thinking and showing their love for each other. And so I wholly recommend Cook Korean, Robin Ha. It's a pleasure just to look at and a pleasure to use in the kitchen. Then here is Dirt Candy, a cookbook. Now, Dirt Candy is a sought-after seat in New York City. This is a vegetarian restaurant. This lady is a vegetarian chef, and She has a restaurant in New York City that, if you're a vegetarian, it is the place to be. It's Michelin recommended. And this book is so much fun. It has, no, it's all black and white. You're not going to get glossy color photographs or even illustrations. But the illustrations are very succinct and clear, and so are the directions. And again, having that visual aid is very nice when you're looking at a recipe. And in between are anecdotes and bits of information from her life and from being a chef and working in her restaurant. There's a very funny anecdote where she talks about when you do get feedback from customers, when you don't, and which is worse. Like, for instance, there's a guy saying, the paella tastes like summer in a bowl. Then another customer says, this paella tastes a little bit bland. The third customer says, this paella tastes like dirty sock water with day-old fried rice floating in it. So which is worse, when you do get feedback or when you don't? Martha Stewart was going to visit her restaurant. She got word that Martha Stewart was going to come this particular night. She had to reschedule someone who was a regular, who was very understanding about it, but then Martha changed her reservation. She had to reschedule less understanding people and give away a lot of free meals. And so then when Martha and her companions came, she didn't give any feedback at all. And so she would say to her waitstaff, just ask what she thinks of the spring rolls. Ask what she thinks of the broth or of the dessert. And she would just say things like, it was very rich. Well, good rich or bad rich? Well, she didn't say. And so finally at the end she says, I think I'll cry now, just to be safe. And this is just one of many anecdotes and little from behind the scenes. Of course, some of the things are fanciful too. There aren't really monkeys running around in your restaurant. But you see, that's comic license. That's what you get to do when you're doing a graphic format thing rather than just actual photographic scenes from your restaurant. So Dirt Candy, of the restaurant, the same name, by Amanda Cohen is the chef. And the illustrator is Ryan Dunleavy. So remember, Amanda Cohen, Dirt Candy, Robin Ha, Cook Korean.
Hi, my name is Aaron, and one of my other graphic novel picks here is Marvel 1602, written by very prolific fiction writer Neil Gaiman. So you might be familiar with some of the Marvel superhero comics, the Avengers, Spider-Man, X-Men, all of that. So this is kind of a fun reimagining of those heroes if all of them had existed in, you guessed it, the year 1602. So it's the Elizabethan era. Again, it's just a fun reimagining. It's definitely got the fantastical elements, but it really focuses more on what makes those characters in the Marvel universe, kind of what makes them tick outside of their powers. It really gets into a little bit more of a grounded approach, even though there are fantastical elements, but fewer explosions than your typical superhero fare.
Hi, my name's Megan, and I love this book called They Called Us Enemy. It's a biography of George Takei, and it's about his experience with his family in the Japanese internment camps. And I actually think the graphic novel format of it was more powerful for me. It was eye-opening and heartbreaking, and all the emotions were felt. This brand new expanded edition that just came out last year has a lot of the history behind as well as the making of the graphic novel, which I thought was a really cool addition from the original one. This is one of my favorites.
Hi everybody, it's Mike. I've got a graphic novel that I thought you might enjoy. It's called Monstrous. It's by the writer Marjorie Liu and the artist Sana Takeda. It takes place in an alternate version of Asia in the 1900s, where a young woman has been through war and she's dealing with the trauma of it. And she has a psychic link to a monster. It's a great fantasy story, very much for adults, but I highly recommend it. The art is amazing, the writing is great, it's ongoing, so check it out when you have a chance.
Hello, this is Pat. In October, I found this most incredible graphic novel that I wanted to share with you today, and it is Poe Stories and Poems. What was so fun about this book is because, like all of you, I've read Poe since I was in high school and maybe before, but the illustrations add such magnificence. The artwork is astounding. Let me just quickly read this to you. It is true that I am nervous, but why will you say that I am mad? In Stories and Poems, written well over a century ago, Edgar Allan Poe established himself as the original American master of Gothic horror. Now acclaimed and adapted, Garrett Hine translates Poe's dark genius into graphic novel torment for Poe fans, old and new. Blood, bones, and flickering firelight set the mood for Hine's vision of Poe's macabre and tragic world. In The Cast at the Armadillo, a man takes a terrifying revenge on a friend who has insulted him. In The Mask of the Red Death, a prince hosts a party in his abbey while plague spreads outside. A prisoner finds himself in sadistic churches in the clutches of the Spanish Inquisition, in the pit and the pendulum, and in the telltale heart, a singular, milky eye incites madness and murder. Alongside the tales are visual interpretations of the three iconic poems, The Raven, The Bells, and Poe's poignant elegy to lost love, Annabelle Lee. Taken together, these 7 concise graphic narratives both amplify and honor a timeless legacy. An example, here is a picture from The Mask of Red Death. The telltale heart. And, quote, "May Raven nevermore." Magnificent introduction to someone for the magic of Poe, or a wonderful way to read Poe again with the singular artwork that goes along with each story and poem.
Hello, my name is Carrie. Today I'm introducing this book. It's a memoir called Gender Queer. It's by Maya Kobabe, and I like it because it's a memoir, very personal, and it's also very helpful for those who's exploring their gender identities and sexual orientations, and it's got cool graphics, so check it out. It's a cool book.
And my final graphic novel pick is Blankets by Craig Thompson. And this one's really interesting because there's no superheroes, no superpowers, anything like that. It's really just an illustrated kind of personal memoir. It's a coming of age story, kind of growing up and learning about yourself. He's kind of struggling with his faith a little bit, relationships, all of that. So it really is, like I said, a coming of age story. But what's interesting about it is he uses the medium of the graphic format in really interesting ways, in typeface and in graphic layouts. So it's a really great introductory if you might be skeptical to look into graphic novels, because it really is just a more personal story.
This is amazing. The art is wonderful. And the story is horrifying. In the best.
Oh, hey, sorry. You caught me in the stacks again. I would like to, you know what? This is a great graphic novel that I was just kind of like walking through the stacks one day, and I found this great adult graphic novel called The Clean Room, Vertigo Comics. The creative team is Gail Simone, John Davis Hunt, and Quentin Winter. This is if you like horror, if you like sci-fi, this is a fantastic book. This is the first volume, Immaculate Conception. Somewhere between the realms of self-help and religion lies the honest world foundation. This is seriously, if you have a thing for H.P. Lovecraft, that kind of sci-fi cosmic horror, this comic, The Clean Room, is right up your alley. The first of 3 volumes. I highly recommend this. Come to the Scottsdale Public Library and check this out.
as soon as possible.